Hello and welcome to the first ever quarterly review on What Does That Piece Do? This is my quarterly review for Q1 2024. Basically, I'm going to go through my entire quarter, last 3 months of gaming experiences and talk a little bit about what stood out to me and also what else I've accomplished on this channel. This is really based on the success of my 2023 year in review wrap, where I talk about the games that really stood out to me and, just show some pictures of them and really say what I really liked about them. It turns out folks really like when I just list a bunch of games and say a few words about them, because that got a lot of clicks, a lot of eyeballs, and a lot of engagement on that video. It's easily my most popular video out of the gate from when it was released versus some of the other tutorials that have really built up over time that are on this channel. So, hey, I figured I'd do some more stuff like that, 4 times a year, as it were. So, also, this is a really good way for me to take stock in all the games that I did play in the past little while. So I'm really lucky and fortunate with all the games that I do get to play and share with others. So, I thought I'd talk about those a little bit more and really, relive some of those memories. So like I said, I'll talk about the videos that I released on this channel too, in case you missed some of them, want to go back and check them out. Really hit the year strong out of the gate with pretty much a video every week for the first little while. Haven't been able to keep up that pace, but there's lots of good stuff out there. There's lots of great things to cover. So as always, if you are into this kind of thing, please do like and subscribe. I'll continue to do more videos like this, including my tutorials, dives into history, reviews, things like that. But for now, let's get going. My Q1 in review, as far as what I did on this channel, well, here's the videos that I actually put out since the beginning of the year. First off, Are These Pieces For You? The Halls of Hagra video. Again, my review series. Thank you again for Tom at Heathwell Games for sending out a copy of that game. I was really able to dive into that and offer my thoughts on it, and I'll touch on that again quickly. Votes for women, there's sensitive political issue as it was flagged on Facebook that really caught my attention and other people's attention, so I had a few things to share about that. I think it's a topic that we shouldn't just let slide under, slide down the radar there. Also released Art of the Game, episode number 3 there on card design, where I got into the whole tiered system thing, the rankings that people do, and I had a bit of fun with that. So looking forward to do more card design reviews as well as map and other component reviews when it comes to the art and design of the games. And talked about Fire in the Lake, and another in the Are These Pieces For You series. That was more of a quick first impressions video. Really thought I'd be doing a little bit more in depth on like how the game played out for me and my friends, but had some thoughts to share on that, and actually I've played it since then too, so I'll touch on that throughout this video too. Vijay Nagara, finally got my copy of that. Was still looking forward to it, so I unboxed it. Did a quick unboxing video, again based on what I knew about the game already, because I had play tested it a bit, so I was lucky enough to have an understanding of what was going to be in that box. But of course, ultimately did the Vijay Nagara tutorial video, which a lot of you have come to know me for, is those tutorials and very structured teaching on how to play. So I really hope people got to learn that game and play that one. And finally, the Art of the Game, episode 4, was on Gen AI art and how it's working its way into games. I have some very specific thoughts on that I did share, and if you missed that one, I encourage you to go back and watch if you're interested in that topic at all. What else happened with me in the channel? Well, this is a fun one. I got my first ever Ko-Fi tip. Ko-Fi, whatever it is, not Patreon, just the other quick tip jar application. I'd set that up a while ago. I was, tipping some other content creators out there, so I thought, why not hook up mine? It's there. It's on my channel, on the About page. I believe you can go and you can see the link. I haven't advertised it at all, but someone that really liked my Cuba Libre teaching video went over there and they gave me $5. So rock and roll. It's a start, right? So wasn't even asking for it. I thought that was really nice of them to do it. They obviously really appreciated that video. If you do want to contribute, if you like what I'm putting out there, please do go to my Ko-Fi and drop me a couple bucks. I greatly appreciate that. I do have a full-time job. I just do this for fun, but if I start to get enough donations, then I can start to update some video equipment and video gear to do more things like this. As it is, I already invested in some of those little lapel mic things, so I can do more on-the-spot remote stuff, which I will be doing in the future. But yeah, there's always some other tech and gear that I could use to do these videos a lot better. So hey, if you donate enough, then eventually I can unlock the $5 that's already there. I'm not going to figure out how to get the money out of there yet until it reaches, say, at least 100. Okay, so if you want to donate and help me unlock the Ko-Fi funds, I'd really appreciate that. And also want to point out the fact that you may have heard in the videos, some of the music that I use for the intros and outros and other pieces like that. That is all my music. That is all personally composed and released under a project that I call Void AOA V01D. If you want to go check that out. It's on Spotify. I'll link to my best of Void, of my own music playlist on Spotify. But really, if you want to support that music at all, please do go to Bandcamp, because by now, if you don't know, Bandcamp is where artists can actually make money. And so if you go and buy stuff there, that's way better than just getting a couple clicks and streams on Spotify. But yeah, it's kind of, electro, industrial, heavy, moody kind of music. If you're into that kind of thing, go check it out. Or if you liked any of the music you've heard in any of my videos, go check that stuff out. That might be up your alley. Okay, so let's get into the games. Let's talk about the games I played in Q1 2024. Actually, I'm going to retread all the way back to the end of 2023. That's when, I did my wrap video, and after that, I just wanted to make sure that, got a couple more games in, which I did with Halt of Hegra specifically. Perfect winter game, comes in over the holidays. So thanks to Tompet Games at Heathville Games for sending me a copy of that for review. As you saw, I did my Are This Pieces For You video to give my personal take on it, and I thought it was a great, beautiful game. Such a super hard game though. Solo experience. It's really an experience in misery and trying to fight off these overwhelming forces that are coming at you with citizen fighters. So really interesting narrative, but really hard to win. I can be honest, I didn't win a single game, even up to doing the review, and even after the review I tried a few more times. I could not win that game at all or get any respectable showing out of it. So someone else has borrowed a copy of it. I just had to give it a breather because I don't think I can ever beat this. So let them play with it for the time being. But some beautiful game, beautiful cards, obviously. I covered the cards in my Art of the Game video. So I think the art is one of the best examples of card art, game art in general, I've seen in a long time from any of these games. So absolutely beautiful, stunning game, but still very brutal and hard. Another game I got to play was Atlantic Chase by GMT Games. Very popular game in the wargaming circles because it's very unique in the system and the setup of how you kind of trace the lines and routes of these ships crossing the Atlantic during World War II. I used to have a copy of this game, and I got it and I learned it and played it solo. I thought it was pretty interesting, but I did trade it away because I didn't feel like it was something I was going to play very often, because there's a lot of fiddly pieces on there and a lot of dice rolling when you're playing solo. Didn't quite capture me as much as I thought it would. I thought it would capture me because, it's about ships in World War II. My grandfather was a merchant marine in World War II for the Allies, for the Canadian Marines as a radio operator. So I really wanted to kind of get a sense of, what his experience might have been like. And in doing so, I was also reading his memoirs. My uncle had printed out years ago. My grandpa passed away in the 90s. He never really talked about his wartime experience, but he did share it in written word, and reading those stories are very interesting, very eye-opening. I didn't know my grandpa went and sailed all the way down the coast of Africa, up the other side, the Horn of Africa, all the way through South Africa. I didn't know he spent time in Egypt, where he bought shoes in Cairo, which then fell apart in the rains in the UK. Apparently, he said these shoes made in Cairo were not made for British weather. Apparently, they dissolved on him. Also, his stories of just figuring out how to live and be on a boat. The first time he got on a boat in, I think, the New York Harbor, and as it was docked and getting used to it rocking back and forth, he realized as he was trying to eat in the mess hall to time swallowing as you're on the upswing wherever you're sitting, as opposed to the other way where it's going to be really hard to keep food down or get food down anyway. So interesting observations, and I can't help but think that that's the sort of story I'd share if I learned about things that way, because it's a very salient point and shows that an apple doesn't fall far from the tree, but I've never had a wartime experience like that. But anyway, I did get to play Atlantic Chase with another player. Really great to sit across the table from someone else and kind of get into it a little bit more, especially with someone that has a lot of kind of wargaming experience with dice roll modifiers and all this kind of tactical battle stuff. So really kind of ripped when we had two of us at the table. We did kind of get stuck in a bit of a quagmire at the end where we were just kind of trying to knock each other in the teeth a little bit more for that 1 or 2 extra points, and it dragged out. It was a bit of a drag out battle for sure at sea, but very interesting just the way the story comes together, and what it really asks you to do and the choices it has you make and play through the experience as a player. So that's Atlantic Chase. But speaking of World War II, I played a couple of online games of Memoir 44. Some folks on the Homo Ludens server, they were doing a tournament, and a few people got done the tournament and still had an appetite for this game. So I got a game of that online through Board Game Arena. Really great implementation of this game. It's a really fun, quick tactical game, very neat abstraction with the cards and the units and the dice and the different areas that you have to be in when you're playing your cards to activate your units. A lot of fun. It's based on that commands and color system with the GMT games. Has had a lot of volumes out as well. But Memoir 44, it rips online. Probably like to play it in real life at some point in the future, see it on the table, even though it's got some minis on it. Minis aren't my favorite, but I think the use of minis in this game is pretty cool. So I had a good old time with that, get my butt kicked in that game. Speaking of get my butt kicked, well, I got my butt kicked again at Maria. This time I was playing as the Austrians. The last time I had played that, again, it was the same two other players that we've been kind of shifting around the table and playing the different factions. I've only played the French and then now the Austrians. I was able to win once as Austrians last year, but then this time I got hammered pretty good and quickly. They knew to come after me right away, the other players, and I think the Pragmatic Army won that one. Great game, fun way to rip through an evening for sure. I've yet to play the Prussian Pragmatic Army Alliance. That's the one faction I haven't played yet. Need to try that out, and probably need to try it out soon because it seems like even the same three of us that are playing again, when we go to put it back on the table after a few months, kind of have to go through the rules again because there's some things we forget. There's just, a little sousant of Chrome in that game, so you kind of have to stay on your toes and make sure you remember how all the things work there. But it is a lot of fun. And okay, what else did I play? Was a GMT coin series, Fire in the Lake. Now again, I shared this in Are These Pieces For You in that video where I was hoping to do just a kind of a playthrough or some sort of initial reactions to it, and I felt enough about the game to say hey, this is what you're looking forward to if you're going to get into this game. So we had that tough time with the first game, and we went back to it a few weeks later though. We all played the same factions, but we played the 1968 deck on. We tried to play the full game before, got through 3 coups before it ended. This time though, we started with the short scenario. Let's get back into it. Let's see some of the cards that we wouldn't have seen otherwise. And again, I played as the NVA, and this time I managed to win on the first coup card. However, it might have been because the Viet Cong player kind of let me have it and let me win. I think they could have stopped me from the win, but they were satisfied with letting me take it. And again, we think we're getting a little mired down in that one, and just the rules, not the rules overhead, but just how tough it is to get some of these very unwieldy factions working and rowing the oars in the right direction, working together. That is a pretty tough game. We have to let that one breathe for a little bit. I definitely want to play it again. Just like most coins, I gotta go back to it, sink my teeth into it more. Again, maybe that will be solo, maybe it'll be with the same crew again once we let it breathe and switch factions around a little bit. But it is a doozy, and it's still gonna live on in my mind for quite some time. So can't let that one just get away from me, but taking a break from it for now. But it is a wild experience. Then speaking of coin, ICS, the Irregular Conflict series from GMT. First game for that finally dropped, and I was so excited about it. Vijay Nagara, having been a playtester for that, and they sent me a promo copy and everything. I think I got it even before some P500 orders went out. Really excited to finally get that and see it on the table and see it in front of me. Did the teaching video and the unboxing, obviously, but managed to play it with 2 others. Had a great time with that. It really rips in an evening. It's a lot of fun. And again, I love the fact that it can go all the way through. You're not going to stop at a victory checkpoint at any point in the game. You go the distance until Timor seeks Delhi. And then you got to play that out and see what happens. Playing as the Delhi Sultanate, I had a blast introducing 2 new players to it. Everyone's a new player at this point, but I had some experience in it. Played it a bunch solo too, and started to get the hang of that. There's a couple things I kept missing every once in a while, but I do love that card system. It's the same system as Fire in the Lake, Gandhi, and People Power. It's card decisions that help decide what the non-players are going to do. So played a bunch as Delhi Sultanate there. Amazing game, beautiful game. Guys that put that one together should be very proud of the work that they put out there. Switching gears slightly though, I got into some Euros like Obsession, the British gentry Victorian deck building game, of course, everyone's favorite type of game. Played that a few more times. Played it 2-player, played it 3-player. Had a blast each time. Did the full version of it, where the extended play version, where you have more actions overall. I haven't even busted out my expansion for that. I still think there's a lot to explore just in the game itself, but getting pretty good at that one. I've managed to win the past 2 games, including an absolute trouncing in my 2-player game. I almost doubled the other player's score, but I was just off to the races. I think I've really felt the groove with that one, and really love just getting into the narrative and the theme of it, and almost role playing with it. As the other player near the end of the game was still lawn bowling for a couple of pounds here and there, I'm having banger recitals in my music hall with my family and getting all the gentry to come out and visit us, and really earning a lot of points that way. It's just a blast. Also played some more Station Fall. One more game of that anyway. This is the crazy sci-fi game about a space station that's about to explode, falling to Earth, whatever, and you've got all these different moving characters around the board that are all trying to escape or not, or maybe thwart each other's escape. You don't know who's playing what character until they reveal. Played a bunch last year. We played a handful of times last year, and introduced a new player to it this year now, and it's always a riot. It's a frustrating riot, but it's crazy how frustratingly fun it can be. Everyone's getting kind of mad at each other, but not mad enough to actually do anything about it when it's just a wild romp. Speaking of things falling from the sky. Anyway, had some fun with Station Fall once again, and then had some lighthearted fun with Brian Boru, the High King of Ireland, that really nice, fairly light trick-taking board game, essentially quickly becoming a go-to just when you got even a little bit of filler time. But even so, there's a bit to set up with a board and whatnot, but you can easily knock off 2 games back to back because it is pretty fluid and pretty smooth, and just a really nice, neat looking game. A little in your face, a little take that here and there, but it's not too confrontational, but it's a fun one. I really do like it. I don't think I have enough trick takers, really. I want to play more and more of them, besides like my experience with, say, Euchre and Fox in the Forest. I want to get into more trick takers, but this one's top of the heap for sure. It's definitely one worth checking out if you haven't had a chance to play it. Nice big board, the obnoxiously square rule book, of course. That's my biggest complaint about the game, but otherwise it's real fun. I enjoy that one quite a lot. That's Brian Boru. Some more political games though. Wir sind das Volk, got that back on the table. Another friend now has bought a copy, so I was able to play with them, introduce them to the game. I had fun playing it once last year, but then this year getting back into it where I had the most experience, and there was a couple rules that we still messed up though, so got to go back to that and play it properly. I was playing as the West this time, and just really interesting asymmetrical economic combat really is what's going on there, and trying to increase standards of living for each other in East and West Germany during the Cold War. Really cool looking game, really punk rock looking, neat vibe to it overall. We both had a blast, but we both realized, there's certain things that we need to keep track of a bit better when it comes to that scoring round in there. But great card driven game. Love to play that one again anytime. But then, got back into some other lighter games. I was up at a cottage and played some Wingspan. Winter cottage is great, especially if the weather's okay, to get outside and do a little bit of walking in the woods, hearing the birds all around you, then come back and play with some birds. Haven't played that in a while. I remember back in the day where we're first getting into games that are kind of that complicated, let's say, and I felt like maybe a tough one to learn, and it took a little while to play, but I don't know, it's pretty smooth. We got 2 games back to back, just one afternoon playing that. It's always fun and relaxing and chill. And I mentioned this game in my Gen AI art of the game video, just to say, like, I cannot ever imagine Gen AI art making anything nearly as beautiful as that. Okay, those cards, those hand-painted cards by Natalia Rojas are absolutely beautiful. Just a joy to get that out on the table again. Lost both games though, so it's still one I need a bit of practice on, I guess, but hey, never say no to Wingspan. Shifting gears slightly though, was a much heavier game, a war game in every sense of the word. That was Brotherhood and Unity from Compass Games, about the battle in the 90s in former Yugoslavia, a full-out assault and war, let's just say, between Serbia, Croatia, and Bosnians. I remember this war. I remember it being on the news just as I'm like, turning 20 basically and kind of paying attention to world events, but like just hearing about the atrocities that were going on there. And sure enough, someone's made a game about it, but I really do think that they put a lot of careful thought and effort into how it is portrayed. So like it's a very war gamey type of game, and using the types of chits that I don't tend to gravitate towards, the movement numbers and troop strength and things like that. But there's not a lot to it. It's not super, super heavy with all these different types of units. Basically, each side gets 2 units, but then get some special armies they can bring in. Point to point sort of system, card driven system. And there's things that you do, like the more areas that you start to take over, well, the more that the international community frowns on what you are doing, better chance that you could start to get bombed by NATO. Really interesting dynamic there, and it does take into account some of the terrible atrocities that did happen there. So you have to be really in the right frame of mind to play this game, and not to be taken lightly. Sitting around the table with some folks that knew it of the war too, and we all kind of discussed about it and the history of it, and even the events leading up to it. So it's really a great way to, sink your teeth into that history, while just keeping a sober mind about, what was actually happening here. We only got through 2 turns in the game. It goes 4 turns, but we felt we learned enough about the game to really appreciate it and come back to it in the near future. It's not super hard. It's not super complex. There's a complex depth of strategy in the game for sure, but we really want to see the back half of the game because that's when the tide starts to turn a little bit and the strength and the who has the upper hand really kind of shifts. But even when we stopped and added our score, there's a lot of kind of weird math that goes into the scoring, but when we did the score, it turned out we were pretty close. It was really hard to gauge based on the state of the board and the map who is winning technically. But when you do all the calculations, like, oh, we were really close. We were like neck and neck and neck there. But it would have been interesting to see how those next 2 turns would have gone, and look forward to playing that in the future. But another game kind of in the same vein, but not nearly as complex though, is Knights of Fire. It's about the siege of Budapest by the Soviet Union in 1956. I'd played this in the past, only once ever with another player. I'd soloed it a bit. I busted it out again, hoping to play it with someone else again soon, but I ended up just soloing a little bit more, and it's just as tough to play, just as hard to win as I remember. It's not that hard to play. It's pretty smooth in the play, but when you're playing as the solo, you're playing as the citizen faction fighting back against the Soviet army that's coming rolling in. One thing I will say about it is the history on the board isn't that rich. That's just basically what's happening in the moment. It's like you're trying to beat back the tanks and the armies if you're that player. More of the history, though, is in the rule book, so you'd actually have to dig into it and read it to understand what's going on. You don't feel the history necessarily as you're playing, but it's a pretty nice looking game, though, and a pretty fluid play. But again, much like Halls of Hegra, pretty tough because you're taking it on the chin by a much more powerful army, and it's very hard to keep your head up and see yourself to victory in that game. Really like to play that with someone else again soon, so that's why I busted it out just to refresh myself how it worked. Another GMT game I played then was Caesar Rome v Gaul. It's the card-driven game, point-to-point system. Again, only got a few turns through that one. I think like 2 turns. I was kind of relearning it because I'd played it online about a year or so ago with someone else, and so another friend now has a copy of the game, so we sat down to learn it, but we're kind of again relearning from scratch and messing up a few of the rules. But it's really neat just the way the map starts to come alive as you see the influence across the board. Really neat looking tarot cards and everything too, so we got to give that one another try. But as it so happens, got my hands on Falling Skies, so I'm really going to dig into that history quite a bit and really get familiar with that time frame and all the things that were happening there. So 2 games basically on the same topic, but complete different ways of playing. And then here's another game that might be a bit interesting to hear that I was really eager to play. This is War of the Ring, about the attempt to destroy the ring in Mordor by the free peoples. Fantasy-driven game, but I'd heard so much good things about this game. Any type of war gamer would say, oh, you gotta play War of the Ring. And it's got all the minis on it again, too. And again, not a huge fan of minis, but you kind of need it for this game, for what it is. Being fantasy-based, but it's based on a very solid foundation of a fantasy series of novels, right, with Tolkien's books. And the way the game is designed is it treats his books as if they are historical artifacts. So it's a very chrome game, not just some sort of battle slapped over top of IP. Like, it makes sense, all the things you do in that. So I played as the Free Peoples against the evil Sauron side. On the other side, the other player, it was their copy. They played a few times, but hadn't in a while. So really kind of getting reacquainted with the game. My first time playing, really easy to get right into it right away. There's a few rules that we messed up, but we definitely need to go back and play that one again, because some of the iconography we just kind of missed, and I won technically, but I kind of cheated, I think. But it was really great to play it, I'll say, especially on that special mat, the game mat, and rather than just the board itself. That way, more of the minis could fit on the table in the space that they're supposed to go. We didn't have to use the overflow necessarily, because we had a nice playing area to play on. But wow, is that ever immersive and evocative. That was a good 6-hour day of playing that all the way through. And again, stumbling through some of the rules, but I would really like to get that one back on the table and give that one another go with the same side too, because just starting to figure out how the Free People's clicks and how all their pieces and their cards work. So I'm not ready to switch sides anytime soon. I want to get back into that and play the same side, and yeah, I'd play that one in an instant. And then finally, one more game I'll talk about that I played, but I'm got another game I'm going to talk about. That is my game of the quarter, which I'll get to after at the end here. But the last game that I did play most recently was Sekigahara. I hadn't played this one really all the way through before. Another game that I had played online to learn with someone else, got like 5 of the 7 turns through over 2 nights as we're both learning it or relearning it. But got to play it on the table in person this time, and oh yeah, it's just as good as I remember, if not better. I've always been intrigued by that battle system of the cards. As you're playing the cards, those are the types of icons you got to match from your blocks to just administer more hits in these battles. The blocks themselves, they start to take up quite a bit of space on the map, the very beautiful map, but it is a lot of fun. Came down to the wire. We're kind of switching blows back and forth, and really kind of keeping it even all throughout. On the last turn of the game, as the player battling against the Child King, the Child Emperor's side, can't remember the names of the sides, but I was able to seize one final castle and get the point swing that I needed to, in theory, win the game. I think the other player had a lot more experience, and they were making sure I knew what I was doing, so I appreciate them coaching me through it, but it was a wild ride no matter what. I would play that one again any day, especially now that I really get a sense of how to play it and start to develop some strategies there. I already have Granada, Last Stand of the Wars, which is based on the same system, but it's a lot busier on the map and a lot more chrome. So it's really good to get back to this one and really see this classic game in action in front of me. And meanwhile, watching on Disney Plus, I'm watching Shogun, so kind of perfect timing because it's about the same time period and actually the same actors, I believe, that are at odds in the game as well as in the show itself. So really fun to finally play Sekigahara. Okay, now before I talk about the game of the quarter here, I will talk briefly about the things that I'm looking forward to coming up in the next little while. Some of the games that I'm looking forward to playing, things like Falling Sky, like I mentioned, Plains Indian Wars, maybe get that to the table, Saladin, Barracks Emperor as well. I've got an untouched copy of that still. Nicaea. We should be playing that one in the near future, and I'll tell you why in a second. I'm also waiting for my copies of Battle of Versailles, which it's on the way to me, but it's stuck somewhere in France right now. I gotta find out what it's been doing sitting there in the airport for a month, but hopefully see that one soon. And should hopefully see Crisis 1914 from Worthington Games too. Looking forward to seeing that one, but I will get to see some other games and some other people. I'm really excited for this. I am going to Circle DC in a week. By the time you watch this, maybe I'm already there, but I'm going to go play a bunch of great games with some awesome people that I haven't even met in person before, some other designers, other players. So this is the gaming conference. For those that don't know, this is only the second time it's run, but it's run by Kevin Bertram of Fort Circle Games. So it's Circle DC, named sort of after his company. So he's going to be prototyping and showing off a lot of games that are in his orbit right now, but a lot of other folks are going to be there showing a bunch of different games and also just playing some classics, getting them around the table. That's maybe how I'm going to get to play Nicaea, but really looking forward to meeting a lot of people. Looking forward to hopefully having some interviews too, so watch out for that. I'm hoping to get some on-the-spot interviews with a couple designers and other people in the scene here. At the end of the day, I just hope to play a lot of great games and meet some awesome people and have a lot of fun. So watch out for some more content coming after that. Let me now talk about my game of the quarter, my personal fave of all the games I played, and that is Shogun. That's the 2006 game. Basically, it's a Euro game. It's also kind of a war game. I had a heck of a lot of fun with that. So the reason why I was turned on to this game is I have another friend that's I haven't even played any games with, but they were at some gathering or some party or something and said that some people were playing a game called Shogun. And then next thing I know, I'm at another friend's place that I do play games with, and they've got Shogun up on the shelves. Now, it turns out this other person was talking about the Milton Bradley game from the 80s or 90s or something. This is the one that I got to play, is the one from 2006. So I really been bugging him for a little while. Let's bust this out. We finally busted out. Played this game 3 times now. It's 3 players. Oh boy, it is a lot of fun. It is just pure fun, chaotic, kind of brain burner, but just a really good interactive, fighty kind of game. How it works essentially is you are trying to take over all these different sections of Japan and trying to erect monuments and buildings and stuff and get points for them. There's basically 3 rounds of play followed by scoring, and then another 3 rounds of play and final scoring. But how the game's played is really interesting. Like, you have these regions and you've got them in card form in your hand, and you've got 10 different actions that you can do over the course of card play each round. You place your cards face down on these areas for what you're going to do. You know what the first 5 things that are going to be resolved, because they're dealt out as different cards. The next 5, though, they are cards that are face down. So you know roughly what's going to happen, at least the first 5 things, whether you're going to be fighting or collecting resources, or maybe have the ability to earn monuments, or just putting soldiers out onto the board. But it's only as they're resolved one at a time does the other card get flipped. So you can kind of, shift gears a little bit based on what you've put down, but a lot of it's kind of predetermined. So you just kind of have to go with it and make your decision in the moment. A lot of it is to do with the attacks and how you're going to go after the other areas that maybe the other players have, which is the wild part. There's a lot of wild parts, but the battle resolution itself is really the most interesting, I think, overall. It's based on this tower that you're going to throw your cubes into. You and your opponent's cubes are going to go into this tower. Whatever comes out, that will help decide the winner. But the thing is, this tower's got a couple ledges in it, and it captures some of the cubes. And there's some cubes already in there at the start of the game. You dump them in there. Now, you could go in with really great odds, 8-3 against your opponent. But you throw your cubes in there, it could come out equal, or you could come out on the downside based on what stuck and what got knocked out. So really interesting, really kind of try your luck when you're going into these battles, because it could really go either way. I mean, odds are if you've got good numbers, you're probably going to do okay, but you never know. It's really wild. You could really whittle down your forces and just have like 1 left at the end of the day to hold this location that you just fought so bravely for. Really nuts, really chaotic, really a lot of fun. We've played this 3 times, like I say, with 3 players. Scores get up to like the 60s for the top players anyway. In all 3 games, the top 2 were within 1 or 2 points of each other. That's how close it is. We're slowly developing our strategies playing this game, but like, it's crazy how close it ended up being after all this chaos happening on the board in front of you. Really looking forward to playing it with 4 players, 5 players too. I think that'll be total chaos. 3, it's a great game for an evening. You can definitely knock this out in an evening. Part of the fun, though, is just sitting with these cards and figuring, what am I going to do? How am I going to let them play out in front of me when I don't know exactly what's going to happen? Because once they're down, and you just got to go for it. So I had a big blast with this one, so much so that I saw, there's a Kickstarter for the reprint of it with the expansions and everything. I had to back that to get myself a copy in the future. I'll probably see it by the end of this year, but it's definitely one I can see myself going back to again and again just because of how wild it is. So if you get a chance to play that Shogun, it's on Board Game Arena too. I think it's on some other platforms, but it just can't be the same without throwing all those cubes and meeples, whatever you have, into that tower and see what sticks and see what comes out. So that's where all the drama is, and I'm all about that kind of drama. Had a lot of fun with that game, so check it out. So that's basically it. That is my quarter for Q1 2024. Hope to come back and do this maybe at the end of June, recap my experiences. But in the meantime, yeah, watch out for other things that I'll be doing, other teaches, other history deep dives, or are these pieces for you reviews. Hopefully have some interviews and some other content coming out of Circle DC. So we're looking forward to see what the next couple months holds, and see you back here one way or the other. So thanks again for watching, and hope to see you at the table someday. Cheers.